There's someone who was on Earth before humans, before writing, before fire, before the first cities and the first wars. He outlived the dinosaurs, outlived several ice ages, outlived the fall of empires and the birth of religions. He had no teeth, no army, no nuclear weapons. He couldn't even move. And yet, he conquered the world. Literally all of it. Every continent, every cuisine, every kid's hand. So, you were born a banana. The setting isn't Africa, isn't South America. The setting is New Guinea. About 9,000 years ago, in a humid tropical rainforest where the air is so wet you could practically drink it, where the morning smells like thunderstorms and rotting wood, where the ground beneath your feet isn't soil but a living, breathing, moisture-sucking mass. No asphalt here, no electricity. They haven't even invented the wheel yet. And in the middle of all this primordial chaos, there's you. Green, small, seedy like a handful of gravel. Nothing like the good-looking guy people toss into smoothies today. But already, you're you. Already a banana. And already ambitious. Let's be honest, though. A wild banana was, to put it kindly, a questionable pleasure. You bite in, and there are these rock-hard black seeds the size of peas scattered through the flesh like pebbles baked into bread. Barely any actual fruit. The taste, grassy, starchy, faintly bitter, like chewing raw dough with a grudge. A modern person stumbling on you in the forest would probably conclude that nature was playing a joke, or that they'd done something very bad in a past life, and this was karma. But you weren't ashamed of your past. You were just waiting. And then they show up, the people of Papua New Guinea. They look at you more carefully than you deserved at that point. Which one's sweeter? Which one's bigger? Which one has less of that awful seed business? They select, they crossbreed, they plant you near their homes. No labs, no microscopes, not a single research grant, just thousands of years of intuition, passed down from father to son, mother to daughter, generation after generation. People who'd never heard the word genetics changed your genetics forever, and about 8,000 or 9,000 years ago, you became a crop. Domesticated, tamed. That's what they thought anyway. Now let's rewind even further, because your real biography starts long before the first Homo sapiens even figured out what breakfast was. Genus Musa. That's your family name, and admit it. It sounds a lot more dignified than just banana. That genus appeared roughly 80 million years ago. 80 million. Stop for a second and let that number sink in. Humans started building cities 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, which means you're about 400 times older than human civilization, not double, not 10 times, 400 times. While humanity was still trying to figure out where to put its first wall, you'd already lived through several geological epochs, survived climate shifts, continental drift, and a complete reshuffling of the planet's map. And you didn't even break a sweat. But here's the really interesting part. 66 million years ago, an asteroid slammed into Earth. That one, about 6 miles across. The impact was so powerful, it threw enough dust and ash into the atmosphere to blot out the sun for months. Temperatures crashed. Plants stopped photosynthesizing. The food chain collapsed almost everywhere at once. 75% of all species on Earth vanished. Forever, including the T-Rexes, the pterosaurs, and hundreds of thousands of other life forms that never even got names. Your ancestors survived. How? Still not entirely clear. Tropical plants are generally considered fragile when it comes to sudden climate shifts, but something about your design, maybe the ability to hide underground as a rhizome, maybe sheer adaptability, got you through that apocalypse and out the other side. No drama, no memorial speeches, just survived and kept growing. The dinosaurs couldn't pull it off. You could. Fast forward to more recent times. Relatively recent. You'd spread across India and Southeast Asia by about 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. Quietly. No press releases. And then people finally learned to write. And you know what's one of the first things they wrote down? You. Buddhist texts from the 6th century BCE mention the banana as food and as a sacred plant. One of Buddha's disciples meditated under a banana tree in search of enlightenment. Not an oak, not a pine, you. And honestly, given how much serotonin you produce, that's not exactly shocking. A few centuries pass, and now he enters the picture. Alexander the Great, the guy who decided to conquer the entire known world, and very nearly did. 327 BCE, the Indian campaign, an exhausted army, an unfamiliar climate, and suddenly, you. The ancient Greek chroniclers were so impressed, they described you as the fruit of wise men. Not just food, not just a fruit. The fruit of wise men. That's literally where the Latin name comes from. Musa sapientum, the muse of the wise. Alexander conquered Persia, Egypt, half of Asia. And somehow you're the one who got called wisdom. He's just a conqueror, you're a muse. And while the Greeks were busy making legends about you, you'd already moved on. About 2,000 years ago, Austronesian sailors, people crossing oceans in wooden canoes long before Europeans worked up the nerve to sail more than a day from shore, brought you to Madagascar. The island became an unexpected crossroads. From there you jumped to mainland Africa, and Arab traders picked you up from there. They knew a good product when they saw one. They carried you along the entire coastline, from East Africa to the Middle East, port to port, market to market. No advertising, no shipping companies, just a boat, the wind, and you on board. You didn't conquer the world by force. You just always happened to be on the right ship. 9th to 11th century, the Islamic agricultural revolution, a period when the Muslim world was experiencing a scientific and cultural boom, while Europe was still figuring out basic survival. Arab scientists and farmers built sophisticated irrigation systems that turned the arid lands of the Middle East and North Africa into farmland. And guess what they decided to grow there? Something water-hungry, tropical, you. Because if you got the technology, why not pick a fight with the climate? You made it to Egypt, Morocco, and even all the way to southern Spain, sunny Andalusia. You were growing in Europe back when most Europeans had no idea you existed. Pretty typical, really. Knowledge tends to cluster wherever minds are actually open. A few more centuries pass. Europe wakes up and decides to go discover the world. 1516, the island of Hispaniola. A Spanish friar named Tomás de Berlanga steps off a ship, and along with his prayers and missionary ambitions, he brings banana seedlings from the Canary Islands. He plants the first banana plantation in the Americas. Just think about that. Latin America today is the planet's leading banana exporter, a symbol of tropical abundance, the backbone of entire economies. And it all started with one monk and a handful of seedlings on a Caribbean island. De Berlanga, by the way, later stumbled onto the Galapagos Islands completely by accident. Also not on purpose. Also just on the way somewhere. Some people just keep tripping over history no matter where they're sailing. And now you're on two hemispheres. Not bad for a fruit with no passport. Now, England, the 1830s. A gardener named Joseph Paxton is working in the greenhouses of the 6th Duke of Devonshire's estate, a man so wealthy, he had his own genius gardener and his own greenhouse, roughly the size of a small palace. There, Paxton grows a new banana variety, hardy, low maintenance. They name it, after the Duke, Cavendish, the same one you see in every supermarket on the planet today. He wasn't born in the tropics, not under the blazing sun of Haiti or Honduras, but in an English greenhouse where apparently even plants learn restraint and discipline. British aristocracy left the world plenty of questionable legacies, but the Cavendish holds an honored spot among them. Then he got shipped off on missions across the Pacific and the Caribbean. Not a bad career for a greenhouse plant. But before the Cavendish became a star, the world was eating a completely different you. Gros Michel, bigger, way sweeter, with a thick skin that could survive shipping. Creamy, fragrant, the exact flavor that inspired artificial banana candy flavoring. That strange, more banana than banana taste that seems almost made up today. That was the real banana of the first half of the 20th century, and the whole world loved it. Then the fungus showed up, Fusarium oxysporum, the cause of so-called Panama disease. It wasn't in a hurry. It just crept slowly and methodically from plantation to plantation, country to country, leaving nothing usable behind. By the 1950s, the Gros Michel was gone, almost entirely. Worldwide, plantations that had fed continents turned into fields of dead plants. Humanity faced a simple choice: find a replacement or go without bananas. And that's when they remembered the Cavendish. Less sweet, less fragrant, but resistant. It wasn't the best option. It was the only option. A trade-off between taste and survival, between what people wanted and what was actually available. Humanity makes that exact same trade-off every few decades and calls it progress. So the Cavendish took over the world. Not because it was the best, because everything else didn't make it. And now, here you are, today, on every kitchen counter, in every backpack, in every smoothie on the planet. The numbers are simple. 124 million tons of you get produced every year. You're the fourth most important agricultural crop in the world, after wheat, rice, and corn. Not fifth, not 10th, fourth. Out of everything humanity has learned to grow over 9,000 years, you're in the top 4. And people still treat you like a casual snack. But here's where the real geography of power kicks in. India grows 31 million tons a year, almost a quarter of total world production. You'd think that makes them the king of the market. But India doesn't even glance at the world market. It eats you all itself. Every last pound. 1,300,000,000 people. And zero surplus for export. That's not a producer nation. That's a consumer nation that takes breakfast very, very seriously. The actual export king is Ecuador. 18 million people and 30% of all bananas on the global market. One of the smallest players by population, feeds bananas to the entire world. It's barely even a business at that point. It's practically a mission. Or, looked at another way, it's the clearest possible illustration of how you still run the economies of entire countries. But every conquest story has a dark side, and yours is no exception. TR4, Fusarium oxysporum, tropical race 4, a new strain of the same Panama disease that wiped out the Gros Michel 70 years ago. It's already here, creeping through plantations in Asia, Africa, Australia, slowly, methodically, no rush. Fungi don't have deadlines, they just wait for you to realize you're losing. Scientists are hunting for resistant varieties, experimenting with genetic modification, trying to buy time. But here's the detail that makes the whole situation especially absurd. The problem has been known for decades, and there's still no solution. Humanity already lost its favorite banana once, and instead of learning the lesson, it just switched to a different variety and decided this time would be different. Optimism is a form of courage too, apparently. And while scientists try to save your future, someone's paying for your present, and getting paid very little for it. Most of the bananas that end up on supermarket shelves in Europe and North America are grown by people earning $2 to $5 a day, not an hour, a day, on plantations in Ecuador, Guatemala, Honduras, the Philippines, where it's brutally hot, where the air is full of chemicals, where pesticides get sprayed right over workers' heads while they're on the job. Chlorpyrifos, malathion, substances banned in the European Union for use anywhere near humans, but perfectly legal where you grow. Several major lawsuits against Dole and Chiquita were won specifically over pesticide poisoning. The companies paid settlements, then went right back to the same methods. Because you're cheap on the shelf, not because nature is generous, but because someone else is paying the difference with their health. It's not your fault, you're just growing. But anyone holding you at the checkout line thinking they paid the real price for you, they're wrong. And yet, while the corporations get sued, the fungus spreads and the climate shifts. There's one number that puts everything in perspective. 400 million people. That's how many people on this planet eat you not as a snack between meetings, not as a smoothie ingredient after a workout. not as something yellow and convenient sitting on the counter for decoration. For 400 million people across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, you are a staple food, their main source of calories. The thing that keeps a person going from morning to night. Not a snack, not a dessert, food. If you disappeared, and we're not talking about the supermarket swapping you out for something else. If you really disappeared, the way the Gros Michel did, for 1/5 of humanity, that wouldn't be an inconvenience or a sad Instagram caption. It would be a humanitarian crisis, a real one, with famine, with collapse, with consequences that would be counted in years. You feed the world, quietly, without fanfare, without press conferences. You just grow, and you feed. 80 million years, and you're still not tired. So smash that like button and subscribe, because the banana has earned it.